Let's go ahead and work through this code again, but this time after we've submitted a username password pair that doesn't match up with one of the items in our users array. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll up to the top. And here we're starting the session again. We're initializing our notices array and initializing our users array of potential matches. This time, the request action is set, so we're going to run this switch statement against the value of action. Right now it's going to be login. So this case for logout is going to be skipped, and we're going to run the case for login. So what we're going to do here is loop through each one of the users and see if there's a match between the username that the user inputted into the form and the password that the user inputted into the form and one of the items in the array. So we're going to loop through the users array, and we're going to pull out the key, which is the username, and the password, which is the value of that item in the array. And then we're going to check to see if the post value of the username that they submitted equals the username in the users array. And we're going to check to see if the post password matches the password in the users array. Now the first time this runs, we're looking at this first line here. So the username is admin. So it's checking to see if our gobbledygook that we entered into the input is equal to admin, which is not. And so therefore it's not even going to execute this condition at all. And it will skip this code right here, but then go back to the for each loop for this second user. In this case, the username is someone, and here's the password. Someone is not going to match our username that we inputted. So this code is going to be skipped again, and then it's going to run one more time on the username homestar. And again, there's not going to be a match. So at this point, the for each loop is over, and we're going to check to see if the session username has not been set yet. So the idea is that if there is a match of username and password, then we're going to set the username session variable to that username. And so we can check here if that session variable is set to know whether they've logged in or not. If they haven't been, then we're going to add a notice that says, sorry, either the username or password is incorrect. So this is the notices array that we're going to render later on in this code. But if they are logged in, then we're going to say, you have been logged in. And finally, we're going to break out of the switch statement. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to see the rest of the code. In our next step, we're checking to see if the username has been set, which it hasn't. So we're going to print this login form one more time. Finally, we actually have notices this time. So we're going to initialize our notices output as an empty string variable. We're going to check to see the count of notices, which will be 1 now. And so 1 is bigger than 0. So this condition will return true, and this code will run. So what we're going to do here is take a function called implode, which will take an array and glue it together with a particular bit of text. In this case, it's going to be an ending list item tag followed by an opening list item tag. And the idea here is that if we had 2 notices, for example, this would show up in the middle, and then we can add an opening listing item tag and a closing listing item tag around both sides in order to complete the unordered list here. When we run implode on just a single item, it won't need to use this to glue anything together, but it will still return that one item as a string. So this will just be the text of our notice, and we'll just wrap around our unordered list and our one list item tag. Around this, we're adding a div tag that has a particular styling. We're adding a border, we're adding a gray background, setting the color to white, setting the font weight to bold, and then adding some padding on the inside of that gray box and some margin on the outside of the gray box to give it some space between it and whatever other content there is on the page. And then finally, we're going to print out our notices input, which is right here, which should contain a single notice, and then our output, which will contain our login form. Let's go ahead and go back to the browser and work through this up to this point. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this query string off of the end of test.php, and I'm going to hit enter in order to load up a fresh login form. And I'm going to go ahead and try to log in with some nonsense to duplicate what we just showed in the code. And I'm going to click login. So here was the result of that submission. We got our notice across the top, and we got our login form printed off again.